Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Bhagavad Krishna Prabhupada. All glories to our beloved speaker of the day, His Grace YASODEVA Prabhu, and all glories to assembled Vaishnava devotees. We thank you all as always. It's an honor to have your association once again, YASODEVA Prabhu. Without further ado, we may put the verse on the screen and you take it over from Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you, dear Sahadev Prabhu, for always giving me some opportunity to remember Krishna and to associate with the wonderful devotees in your Sangha. And we're so fortunate that we get to hear Srimad Bhagavatam daily. Would be best. That's what the Bhagavatam says. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. And by hearing through the medium of Srila Prabhupada, we can have some understanding of some of the majesty and incredible glory of devotion and devotional service. So, first of all, offer my most humble and respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who labored tirelessly to produce Srimad Bhagavatam for us, foregoing sleep and eating, and while dealing with teenagers, an institution staffed entirely with teenagers. I mean, we can hardly handle our own children teenagers. Can you imagine having thousands of them? Still, while doing all of this, Srila Prabhupada put his emphasis on producing Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. And so it is our good fortune to receive the best of Srila Prabhupada in his Bhaktivedanta purports. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 15, text number 35. This chapter is the description of the kingdom of God. Brahma is answering some questions as to why the universe had become very dark. The demigods were very anxious. And in order to explain the cause of this darkness, Brahma tells the story of Jaya and Vijay being cursed to take birth in the womb of Diti. But now we're at the part where the Kumaras have come to Vaikunta. They were hindered by Jaya and Vijay. Whether or not that was correct for them to do so is subject to debate. But anyway, the Kumaras cursed Jaya and Vijay, and whether or not that was correct to do so is subject to debate. The Lord himself will come and give his sanction to this whole situation. But now we're at the part where the doormen, Jaya and Vijay, are responding to the curse. So, text number 35 says, Tesham itiritam ubhav avadharya ghoram tam brahmadandam anivaranam ashtrapugrai sadyo harer anucharav uru bhibyatas tat pada grahav apatatam atikatarena. I will do the word for word if that's all right, because if we just keep doing it, we gradually learn so much of the Sanskrit vocabulary, and it makes it easier to remember shlokas and remember prayers. So, Tesham, of the 4 Kumaras, iti, thus, iritam, uttered, ubhav, both doorkeepers, avatarya, understanding, ghoram, terrible, tam, that, brahmadandam, curse of a brahmana, anivaranam, not able to be counteracted, astrapughai, by any kind of weapon, sadhya, at once, harehe, of the Supreme Lord, anucharao, devotees, uru, very much, bibhyataha, became fearful, tat pada grahau, grasping their feet, apatatam, fell down, atikatarena, in great anxiety. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When the doormen of Vaikuntha Loka, who were certainly devotees of the Lord, found that they were going to be cursed by the Brahmanas, they at once became very much afraid and fell down at the feet of the Brahmanas in great anxiety. For a Brahmana's curse cannot be counteracted by any kind of weapon. In later verses, we'll hear why a Brahmana's curse cannot be counteracted. Because Brahmanas speak on behalf of the Lord. The Lord sanctions, empowers their voice to effect real-world results. Ashirvada. What they speak creates a result. And the Lord honors that arrangement of his. And so therefore, a Brahmana's curse cannot be counteracted. Even for Jai and Vijay, even when the Lord himself comes, Narayan comes, and sanctions it. So, those who consider themselves Brahmanas should recognize speaking on behalf of the Lord is a huge responsibility. And it can uplift all of human society. It can also destroy people and destroy yourself. So, anyway, that's not really the subject of this particular part, but I just thought that was interesting to consider. So a Brahmana's curse cannot be counteracted by any kind of weapon. Purport. Although by chance the doormen committed a mistake by checking the Brahmanas from entering the gate of Vaikuntha, they were at once aware of the gravity of the curse. There are many kinds of offenses, but the greatest offense is to offend a devotee of the Lord. Because the doormen were also devotees of the Lord, they were able to understand their mistake and were terrified when the 4 Kumaras were ready to curse them. Let's go to text number 36. Bhuyat aghoni bhagavad bir akari dando yo now hareta surahelanam apyashesham mavo nutappa kalaya bhagavat smitigno moho bhaved ihatunar vrajator adhodha. Bhuyat, let it be, aghoni, for the sinful, bhagavad bihi, by you, akari, was done, dandaha, punishment, yaha, that which, now, in relation to us, hareta, should destroy, sura helanam, disobeying great demigods, api, certainly, ashesham, unlimited, ma, not, vaha, of you, anutapa, repentance, kalaya, by a little, Bhagavat, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Smriti gnaha, destroying the memory of. Moha, illusion. Bhavet, should be. Iha, in the foolish species of life. To, but, now, of us. Vrajataho, who are going. Adha, adaha, down to the material world. Adha means down. Adha means very far down. So going all the way down to the material world. Translation and purport, again by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. After being cursed by the sages, the doormen said, "It is quite apt that you have punished us for neglecting to respect sages like you. But we pray that due to your compassion at our repentance, the illusion of forgetting the Supreme Personality of Godhead will not come upon us as we go progressively downward." Amazing. Purport. To a devotee, any heavy punishment is tolerable, but the one which affects forgetfulness of the Supreme Lord. Oh, let me read that again. To a devotee, any punishment is tolerable, but the one which affects forgetfulness of the Supreme Lord. The doormen, who were also devotees, could understand the punishment meted out to them, for they were conscious of the great offense they had committed by not allowing the sages to enter Vaikuntha Loka. In the lowest species of life, including the animal species, forgetfulness of the Lord is very prominent. The doormen were aware that they were going to the criminal department of the material world, and they expected that they might go to the lowest species and forget the Supreme Lord. They prayed, therefore, that this might not happen in the lives they were going to accept because of the curse. In Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, verses 19 and 20, it is said that those who are envious of the Lord and his devotees are thrown into the species of abominable life. Life after life, such fools are unable to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore they continue going down and down. Adha, adha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Timarandasyam Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shcham Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Shcha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, I doubt that many of us would respond in exactly the same way as Jaya and Vijaya if someone cursed us to be cast downwards and downwards into the material world, possibly into lower species of life. At this point, Jaya and Vijaya don't know exactly that this is an arrangement of the Lord for his pleasure. He wants to enjoy the chivalrous rasa of fighting. But devotees don't fight with Krishna. Devotees love Krishna. So how is he supposed to fight with someone? Jaya and Vijaya, being servants of the Lord, are certainly willing to serve the Lord in whatever way he desires. And so they're going to take birth by his arrangement in forms that will give Krishna a bit of fun in the form of a fight. As we know, the story of Hiranyaksha and Varaha. Of course, we'll be celebrating Varaha-dev's appearance day, I think on Thursday. And Hiranyakashipu and Lord Nrsingadev. In this way, the Lord enjoys fighting. It's part of his pleasure. Just like we enjoy fighting. Anyone who's married knows. As my Gurudev would always say, everybody needs someone to love and someone to blame. So you get married and it's just the same person. You get to love them and blame them. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, getting back to Jaya and Vijaya. So the Lord wants to enjoy having a fight. That's why we also enjoy wrestling or sport or combat. Because Krishna enjoys it too. But at this point, Jaya and Vijaya don't know that. They're considering we've been cursed by the Kumaras. And it's entirely possible that we'll be born as some worm or a dog or who knows what. And yet still, they're fully accepting. And that's a remarkable attitude, which I know I couldn't emulate. Maybe some of you devotees are so magnanimous that you could. But they're showing us what's really important. It's not actually the form of life that you have. It's not even whether you're in Vaikuntha or in the material world. What's actually important is remembering the Lord. That's why they're praying, please be compassionate towards our repentance. And just, we pray that you won't allow us to forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead as we go progressively downward. What an amazing attitude. Sometimes when life is hard and we're feeling ourselves overwhelmed by so many things and we think this is so bad and everything's horrible, I just want to give up, we should consider the example of Jaya and Vijaya. Their only concern is remembering the Lord. If one remembers the Lord, there's all success. Everything is accomplished. And there's a shloka which says that. I'm going to remember it in just a second. Where it says, Smartavya vitatam vishnur vismartavya najatuchit. Sarva vidi nisedasur etayor eva kinkra. I think it's Rupa Goswami. He says, always remember Krishna, smartaya vitatam vishnur, vismartavya najatuchit, and never forget Krishna. Sarva vidi nisedasur, all the rules and regulations of all the scriptures only serve these two principles. That's the point of everything. To always remember the Lord and never forget the Lord. Whether one is in the spiritual world, whether one is a doorman in Vaikuntha, whether one is in a demoniac body, like Hiranyaksha or Hiranyakashipu, whether one is an animal, the only consideration is whether one remembers the Lord. Remembers Nitya Siddha, Krishna Prema, Sadhya Kabanoy. What's that shloka? Anyway, just remembers that we're all eternal servants of Krishna. The problem is that generally in animal forms, you can't remember anything except eating, sleeping, and trying to mate, fighting over a little patch of dirt. Generally, forms below human are more characterized by forgetfulness. The amount of covering over the soul is intense. We were just reading in another Bhagavatam verse this morning, like a caterpillar wrapped up in a cocoon. We become covered by different gradations of material energy. And the symptom of that covering is simply this: forgetfulness of the Lord. The symptom of that liberation, therefore, is also this: remembrance of the Lord. So you can ask yourself, am I being liberated from material existence? Have I made progress in Krishna consciousness in the few years that I've been chanting, associating with devotees, hearing Srila Prabhupada's books? We should simply look and see, how much am I remembering the Lord? To that degree, I am being liberated. It's not that I need to float in the air, or I should just be glowing, or somehow my bank account should just magically fill up with money, or everything will just go my way. That's not liberation. That's bondage. Liberation is simply this: to always be remembering the Lord, never forgetting Him. And so we can look at ourselves, judge and see, I'm becoming liberated by the grace of Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev and all the Vaishnava Sangha. More and more I'm remembering Krishna. In times of happiness, in times of distress, while performing sadhana, and even in between my sadhana. Guessing that most of us here are grihastas, not renunciates, which means you have time in between devotional service. When I was a brahmachari, of course, there's only devotional service. You don't do anything else. There's no time to do something. Of course, as we are in different aspects of life, like grihastas, most of your time is doing something else, and then you try to do a little devotional service. But we can still examine our progress and see. Even in between my chanting of japa, my reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, still I'm remembering Krishna. This is a symptom that liberation is happening. Like the sun coming up over the horizon, even before the sun is at its zenith in the sky, still the light floods the whole area so we can see everything clearly. So we are very fortunate that just like Jaya and Vijaya, our concern is to always remember the Lord and never forget the Lord. Failing to do so is the only thing that a devotee is afraid of, as Prabhupada says in the first line of this purport. For a devotee, any heavy punishment is tolerable, but the one which affects forgetfulness of the Supreme Lord. The four Kumaras, they said something similar to King Prithu in the Srimad Bhagavatam text. Hold on. It's a great verse. Hold on. Where is it? What is that verse? Oh, Brashyat anusmritis chitam jnana brahmksha smitikshaye tadrodam kavaya prahur atma pavanam atmanaha. It's interesting that the Kumaras are cursing Jaya and Vijaya. Jaya and Vijaya know this is very dangerous. We might be put in a position where we'll forget the Lord. Where the 4 Kumaras had earlier given instruction to King Prithu, saying that the only terrible condition for one to have is this forgetfulness. Here the 4 Kumaras in a similar situation. They say to King Prithu that when one deviates from his original consciousness, right, taking on an animal form, a material form, he loses his capacity to remember his previous position or recognize his present one. When remembrance is lost, all knowledge acquired is based on a false foundation. When this occurs, learned scholars consider that the soul is lost. Atma pavanam atmana. This is the fear that Jaya and Vijaya are feeling. We should feel this fear. If I go downwards, adaha, adaha, whatever knowledge I may have is on a false foundation. If I go down into even lower species, beyond human, into some animal, then atma pavanam atmana, it's like the soul is lost. This is what the Kumaras say. Of course, there is no death for the soul, there's no destruction, but the time spent completely covered by the material energy is so long, it's so horrible. It's the only thing Jaya and Vijaya are afraid of. The Kumaras themselves, they say it's like the soul is lost. And even in a human form, a material human form, because it's based on a false foundation, thinking, aham mameti, I and mine. All knowledge acquired is on this false foundation. And it's illusion. That we have first-hand experience of. Like if you're doing an equation, trying to solve for x, but someone gave you the wrong variable, you just have the wrong number to start with, you're just not going to get the right answer. Even if you do the equation as best as you possibly can. If you've been given the wrong input, you're just not going to get the correct answer. So in the human form of life, even though we have some intelligence, if we are forgetful of the Lord, if we do not remember the Lord as the proprietor of everything, the best friend of everyone, the enjoyer of all sacrifices, then no matter what we do in this world, we're going to get the wrong answer. This is what Jaya and Vijaya are afraid of. Are we also afraid? Do we feel the same fear? Or, I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay in this world. It's not that bad. I've got some nice things. Sometimes I get a little bit of attention. I'll be okay. I don't have to be fully Krishna conscious. We should be as concerned as Jaya and Vijaya. They fall down at the feet of the very people who cursed them. No time for ego. No time for conflict. The number one concern is please, please, just don't allow us to ever forget the Supreme Lord. Can you imagine how significant is that remembrance? The same mood is emulated by so many great devotees. Most notably, the mother of the Pandavas, Queen Kunti, she prays very famously. I'm sure everyone knows this famous prayer. Vipada santuta shastvat tatra tatra jagadguru bhavato darshanam yatsyad apunar bhavadarshanam. After summarizing all of the ways that they were tortured and abused and persecuted by Duryodhan and their family, still Queen Kunti, she's saying, I wish that all of these things would happen again. Actually, I would like to have more calamity, more suffering, more difficulty, because it's our impetus for remembering you. And if we remember you, if we see you, we will no longer see this material world. We will no longer see repeated birth and death. That's a lot of conviction. We might think, well, I don't have such an extreme, I've got problems, but I'm not like the Pandavas, And I've had conflicts with other people, but not like Jaya and Vijaya being cursed to go down to the material world. So this doesn't apply to me. But no, it absolutely does. That conviction that all I need is to remember the Lord, to hear and chant about the Lord, to serve the Lord in any situation. That conviction is being expressed time and time again in Srimad Bhagavatam so that we will imbibe that as well. Imagine praying for more difficulties, because that will help me to remember the Lord. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. Then it's actually very good. My Guru Maharaj gave an example that if you want to go to the temple for Mangal Arati and you're walking down the street, and if there's a dog chasing you, some vicious dog trying to bite you, and you're running and running and running, you might think this is very bad. But if you run and jump into the temple just as darshan is beginning, then actually the dog is very good. It's that simple. That's the devotee's definition of good and bad. If it gives further impetus for remembering the Lord, serving the Lord, then it's good. So if my difficulties, my struggles, my conflicts with other people, my suffering, my pain, if that causes me to remember the Lord, then it is good. And if my comforts and my luxuries, my complacency, my status causes me to forget the Lord, then it is bad. It's that simple. Jai and Vijay are making that very clear. Very clear. By accepting the punishment humbly, by falling at the feet of the Kumaras, holding their feet, saying, please, please, just don't allow us to forget the Lord. They're making it very clear to us. That's the only important thing. Nothing else. So we're so fortunate to hear this example of theirs, to try to understand it, to try to imbibe it as well. We should learn, of course, not just the mood of Jai and Vijay. We shouldn't just learn from them. Although, if we could just learn that one thing, to have that same attitude, we'll be very, very successful. But we should also learn from this incident how dangerous it is to offend devotees. It is not a light thing. It can result in the destruction of someone's body, the destruction of their spiritual progress. It can result in someone going downwards, adaha. Offending a devotee will cause you to go downwards. You, I don't mean any of you in particular, but a person in general. And I've seen, unfortunately, too many times how someone starts to become, how should we say, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, Sadhdev, but we've probably seen in others. Someone just becomes a little bit too comfortable with being critical of other Vaishnavas. Sometimes we get a little too comfortable. We do it a couple of times, say a couple of things about this devotee and that devotee, and we think, wow, I haven't been struck by any lightning bolt. Right? I haven't broken any legs or something, so it's not that bad. Maybe I should keep telling everybody exactly why they're wrong. Exactly why this person is nonsense. And in this way become very comfortable with being critical of devotees who are very dear to the Lord. If that comfort is there, that complacency with offending devotees, being unnecessarily critical, and by unnecessary I mean it's not pointed towards improving Krishna's service. It's just an indulgence out of frustration. Of course, sometimes we need to be critically analyzing how a service is performed and whether or not someone is qualified for a service. Those things are there. If the interest is to improve Krishna's pleasure. But I'm talking about that selfish indulgence where we just want to let out something nasty. Just want to say something about someone who's challenged me. Just put it out there like poison. Some of you probably know what I'm talking about. Maybe you don't. And if you don't, bless me. But I got a lot of poison in my mind, and I just try to keep my mouth shut. That's the best. But if we get too comfortable with spitting poison, we think, well, I'm okay, I haven't been struck down dead yet. It must be all right. I've seen so many times that then someone makes a habit out of it. When, like a fly always looking for stool, one is in the habit of just pointing out so many problems, criticizing unnecessarily, they fall down. This we've seen over and over again. Adaha, adaha, as it says in this verse. They eventually aren't associating, thinking every other devotee to be wrong, and everyone's doing it wrong, only I'm doing it right. So then they don't associate with anyone, and then nothing. Just stewing in their bitterness. So we've seen this time and time again. And who knows what their situation might be in the next life. Perhaps they'll get another chance in devotional service, or perhaps if they were really offensive, then, like Jaya and Vijaya, they'll have to go downwards. We should be very, very careful about how we interact with the devotees. That's demonstrated in this chapter. Later, we'll hear Lord Narayan himself come to the scene, right? Because he's omnipresent, omniscient. He knows there's something intense going on at gate number 7 in Vaikuntha Loka. There's something happening. He comes there to that scene. And you know what he says? He says, the devotees are more dear to me than me. Hello, my son. No. The devotees are more dear to me than me. He says, if my arm is offensive to a devotee, I will cut off that arm. This is Narayan speaking. Do you want to sit with me? Or just look at me menacingly from the... Come here, my boy. All right. He'll figure out something to do. Little Madhava. Okay. Okay. Lord Narayan, he says, if my arm is offensive to a devotee, I will cut off my arm. Can you imagine? What if we had that same... This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead demonstrating the attitude to be around devotees. And here we are, we're thinking, what does it matter if I say a couple of nasty things about this one or that one? It's no big deal. They agree with me. So it's justified, right? And we feel justified. Oh, this other devotee agrees with me. I guess now it's right. It's okay to do so. Narayan, Lord Narayan himself is saying, the devotees are more dear to me than my own form. And I'll cut off my arms if it's offensive to a devotee. I mean, that's a pretty graphic example of what attitude we should have. Why should we have that attitude towards every devotee? Even those who do terrible things? Even those who have made horrible mistakes? Because they're dear to Krishna. It's that simple. Krishna says it very explicitly and clearly for everyone to understand and to hear in chapter 9, text number 30 of the Bhagavad Gita, which I'm going to remember. I'm not going to remember. I'm just going to look it up. Hold on a second. You all know the verse. What is that verse? Where Krishna says, Api chet su durachara.
Hello.
Thank you. Achara means one's behavior. And dur achar means bad behavior. And su dur achar means very bad behavior. But Krishna says, Api, even if someone has su dura achara, very bad behavior, but bhajate mam ananya bhak, they serve me with devotion. I am their highest goal. I am their object of meditation. I am the repository of their love. Then, sadur eva, that person is a sadhu. Sadhu means spiritual consciousness, spiritually progressive. They're progressing. Even if sudurachara. Sadur eva. Krishna says eva. Absolutely, certainly, 100%. Not like when we say certainly. We say certainly sometimes. We don't mean certainly. Yeah, I'll certainly be there to help you, move house. Maybe not. No, I'll certainly clean up all these dishes as soon as I'm done with this. Maybe. When Krishna says eva, certainly, he means it. Sadur eva samantavya. He says he's to be considered a sadhu. Mari. Samyak vyavasito hi saha. He's fixed in his determination. And in the next verse, Krishna says, he very quickly becomes righteous and purified because of that devotional service. Yes. Kshipram. Kshipram means very quickly. Kshipram bhavati dharmatma, becomes fixed in righteousness. Shashvachantim, nigachati, having attained peace. So this is why with every single devotee, we should be very careful. We should be very respectful. Krishna says sadur eva. When he says he's certainly a sadhu, he doesn't mean it like when we say certainly, which is like 60-70% maybe. This is Krishna's judgment. of the devotees. Every one of them, even su-dur-achara, even if they've made some terrible mistake, even if they've committed some error, even if they've offended you. Still, such a devotee should be revered, at least at a distance. That doesn't mean you have to associate with every single person who's, got it out to get you. But at least from a distance, within the heart, within the mind, they should be respected and revered and never offended. It's that simple. Krishna says he'll cut off his own arm if it offends a devotee. So who are we to say something otherwise? I'll just say one more point and then wrap up, because my boy's being a little difficult. You come here or you go. Which one do you want? Come here, buddy. 4-year-olds. We were all 4 years old at one point and probably gave our mothers and fathers a lot of stress. But fortunately, 4-year-olds are very cute, and so it kind of balances out. It makes them tolerable. But on the subject of how we sometimes have conflicts with devotees and might even offend a devotee, we have to remember that in almost all circumstances, when there's a conflict between devotees, in almost all circumstances, both devotees are right. And that's what makes conflict resolution with devotees very difficult. We should analyze in this way before we start to criticize, before we start to become offensive. In almost all situations, both parties are right because both parties want to please Krishna. There might be a conflict about how to do something. I want to serve in this way, we want to serve in that way, this would be better, no, that would be better. It's difficult to resolve a conflict because both of them are correct. And 99.9% of whatever issues we have amongst our devotee communities falls in this category. Everybody wants to please Krishna. There's hardly anyone who's explicitly not trying to please Krishna. They would probably just leave our society, our community. So everybody wants to please Krishna, so everybody's correct. When there's some conflict, or there's some debate. Now the Vaishnavi Diksha Guru debate has come up again because the GBC has to address it soon. Both parties are correct in that they both think this is the best way to please Krishna. I mean, I hope the GBC makes a particular resolution, but I won't get into that right now. I hope that they choose one particular side. But both parties are correct in that they both think how to please Krishna. And so if we forget that and think that, no, this devotee is just wrong, there's something wrong with them, and I should say it to everybody, I should make everybody know that how wrong they are, because if they don't hear it from me, then they won't know. Then we become offensive. We start to become comfortable with that offensiveness. And adha, adha, down and down we go. We see it even in this lifetime, in this world, and we're seeing it on a cosmic scale in Srimad Bhagavatam. So let us be very careful, very sensitive. Let us remember the example, the precedent set by Lord Narayan himself. The devotees are more dear to me than my own form, and if my arm is offensive to a devotee, I will cut off that arm. Do we consider ourselves followers of the Lord? Will we cut out our tongue if it accidentally says something offensive about a devotee? Please don't, by the way. There are other ways to deal with those sort of issues. But that's the attitude. So, considering the wonderful lessons to be learned from this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, we should remember that the only thing to be afraid of is forgetting the Lord. The only problem with material existence is forgetting the Lord. And that in all situations, we should only pray to always remember the Lord and never forget Him, no matter what scenario we may be in. And let us also learn that offensiveness towards a devotee compels one downwards and downwards. We should not indulge in criticism unless it really is our responsibility to think critically about how something is done or to guide others. The spiritual master can be critical of a devotee because they're responsible for guiding them. But we should not indulge in unnecessary criticism just to stroke our own vanity and our own egos. By remembering that every devotee is right, is correct, has got it 100% correct. Because they want to serve Krishna, we can circumvent this tendency to be critical of others. So let's keep some of these things in mind. So many wonderful lessons that we learned from Srimad Bhagavatam. We're so blessed, we're so fortunate that every time we open it up, every page we look at, every single verse is a lesson that we could spend a lifetime on. Every single verse. What to speak of, I don't know how many verses it is, 800,000? I mean, it's huge, enormous. But we won't spend a lifetime right now. We'll just spend about 40 minutes, and so I'm finished. I'll ask if there's any comments or thoughts on some of these.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sahadev Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you so much, YASODEVA Prabhu. Of course, as always. Particularly, I don't know, but it always feels so good to my ears and to my heart when I hear you recite Sanskrit slokas. I don't know why. I mean, I hear lots of devotees chant it. Of course, I do not know any sloka, but when I hear devotees chant, I really get so much inspiration, and particularly yourself. Thank you so much. Dear devotees,
Thank you, Prabhu.
if anyone has any question, comments, reflections, realizations you may want to ask or share, please indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask a question. Hare Krishna, Lila Devi. So good to have your association. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
The only shloka you need to know is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Well, I have a question, Prabhuji. Some time ago, I was fortunate. I was doing a radio program, and I said something quite grave, and of course, grotesque as well. And what did I say? I said that if God asked me to have sex with my mother, I would.
Hare Krishna. All right.
I said that just to let people understand that the most grotesque thing anybody could think of is having such relationship with your mother.
Probably,
But
yeah.
if God asks that do this, and we see from the scriptures, Arjuna was not prepared to fight his kinsman. He didn't want to. But Krishna convinced him because Krishna wanted him to. Krishna told him, all these people are already dead. I just want to take their glory. And we see because Arjuna and Yudhishthira are both wonderful devotees, even after understanding that Krishna asked them to embark on this war, after the war, they were still lamenting, particularly Yudhishthira. So I find it very, very difficult to worship Krishna because we all have our senses, we all have our intelligence, we read the scriptures, we know what is to be done, what is not to be done. But when Krishna says, do this, then as a devotee, you're going to do it. So the question I am arriving at is, when Guru or when Krishna, of course, I am nobody for Krishna to talk to directly. But if Guru asks me to do something which in the ordinary sense may not be something I will be happy doing because of what I know from the scriptures, then what do I do? And how do I also know that what the Guru is telling me is actually what Krishna is asking me to do? so that I can confidently do it, because that is what Krishna is saying.
Is that your question? Oh my Krishna, that's a hard one.
I mean, we are not to disobey the instructions of the Guru. That is one of the 10 offenses against the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. But we have seen, unfortunately, in some cases where gurus made some errors, and if the individual just followed it, he will be doing something wrong. So what I'm trying to arrive
possible.
at is when the guru asks us to do something, do we just go ahead and do it, or we also have to use intelligence to analyze? Do I have to do it? Do I not have to do it? If I don't have to do it, then it means you do not have faith in Krishna. So it's a little complex. Please help.
Yes, we can analyze. If there is some doubt, we can take guidance from Shastra and from sadhus. You know, these authorities are meant to be congruent with each other. Guru, sadhu, and Shastra.
Yes.
Not that anyone who's initiated someone can now just do anything. Srila Prabhupada demonstrates this more than anybody. He doesn't just say, well, I say, do this. He's always quoting the Shastra. I mean, he really is the best authority in the whole world, and yet he's referring to other authorities. So a spiritual master who refers to authorities like Prabhupada and like Krishna, then yes, you should do everything that they say. Even if something seems challenging, even if it seems uncouth or inappropriate in modern society. But if that is really for the service of Krishna, if it's backed up by the authority of Shastra and Sadhu, then it should be done. But if the spiritual master tells you to do something and you're a bit suspicious of it, and you get confirmation from Sadhu and Shastra that it's not appropriate, then no, you should not do. And that was demonstrated by Lord Vamanadev and Shukracharya and what's his name? Maharaj? Bali, thank you. Who was told by his guru, Shukracharya, don't give Vishnu what he wants. And Shukracharya is like, hold on, that doesn't align with what I've heard from Sadhu and Shastra. You're supposed to give Vishnu everything. So he rejected his spiritual master, Shukracharya. So that was appropriate. I pray that we won't find ourselves in such a situation, but unfortunately it does happen. I think that's one of the great strengths and benefits of our community. For all the problems that may come with institutions, there are also a lot of good that sometimes we don't think about. We don't think about it until it happens. That is, if there's a guru who's maybe out of touch and is saying something inappropriate, we have means of addressing it and helping those disciples as well to get guidance elsewhere. So pray that won't happen to any of us. But if it does, we should consider that there are 3 authorities and they should be congruent. It's not just that any whimsical thing that Gurudev says. No, anything Gurudev says, if it is in accordance with Sadhu and Shastra as well, then absolutely we should do it.
Yeah. Well,
that's my opinion.
Well, even Krishna speaks like that. That's my opinion. So thank you so much. But I'm seeing some beautiful example from the Kumaras and Jai Vijay. Because the Kumaras, even after they cursed Jai Vijay, they still were contemplating how they can relieve them of the curse, how they can soften the curse. And like we just read, Jai Vijay, they wholeheartedly accepted the curse, but they were also pleading and praying that they never forget Krishna. This is the mood of devotees. But whereas the person who felt that he's been offended and is cursing the devotee who offended him, the offender, without any concern of the offender's spiritual growth, And the offender who also offended is not even readily going to accept the curse and pray for forgiveness. Then how do we say that either of these two are devotees? I do not see any much serious devotion in both the offended and the offender. If there is no concern for one seeing the spiritual growth of the offender, and the offender himself not admitting that he's committed an offense and he deserves this, but trying to seek some sort of leniency.
Okay. Future verses in this chapter will clarify a bit more of what they're thinking, although it's been a while since I've read it. But as I recall, and what we should remember is that at this point, the Kumaras aren't really devotees. It's when Lord Narayan comes to this scene, and then they famously smell the tulasi from the Lord's lotus feet. They see the Lord. That they go from their stage of Brahman, Brahman Paramatmavadis, to devotees. So actually, they're not entirely devotees at this point. So, in that sense, there's some correctness. I think that we'll read in chapters that they do lament the curse, but then the Lord himself gives assurance that actually this is for my Leela, this is for my pleasure. And then all parties concerned are satisfied with the situation. So there is a lot of intricacy here. I'm not expert in really dissecting all of the psychology, but I have heard that from His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The Kumaras are not necessarily devotees yet at this point. There is some lamentation, but the Lord gives everybody assurance. How Jai and Vijaya react to the situation, I don't know if we can really judge. I mean, we hear exactly from Bhagavatam that their mood, and my understanding is that that's very devotional. Simply being concerned with never forgetting the Lord. Should they be concerned with their offenders? What might happen to them for this offense? I don't know. Maybe they are, and it's just not expressed in this particular part. Maybe before they even get a chance to say it, Lord Narayan pacifies everybody. It's hard to dissect even more without insight from acharyas who can see these things better. But at least that much we know from Srila Prabhupada. Sorry, I can't analyze it any more than that, Prabhu.
Well, that is really
my limitations.
Well, I have much more than you do. Don't worry about it. Shrimad Prabhu, please see me unmute.
How fitting, Viraha Acharya Prabhu, since we're talking about a pastime where Lord Varaha appears. Hare Krishna Prabhu, are you there? Can you hear us? We can't hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, I guess not.
Did we lose him? Looks like.
Hare Krishna?
Oh, okay. Hare Krishna.
Okay. 1 minute. So please accept my humble obeisances with the Prabhupada.
Jai.
Others to be proper devotees. Is my voice clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much for the lessons to be learned from this text. It's interesting. And I hope we can really apply them. But I have a problem with one of the lessons. I'm trying to digest it going down.
Hold on, your mic is making your audio a little muffled.
Yeah, I put it up anyway. Put it up.
Or maybe you're too close to the mic.
Okay, so
yes, much better. Yashodeva, there is echo. I'm sure it's coming from your end.
Let me mute myself while Prabhu's speaking.
Okay. Yeah, Shrimad Prabhu, please.
Okay, fine. So like I was saying, that there's so many lessons to be learned and beautifully shared. Sounds very good. but I'm having problem to digest one of those lessons. That everyone is right. All the devotees are right. And I'm thinking, well, because there is one organization, I think it's the Ekanka, they don't have rules. So in that kind of organization, everyone is right. They don't criticize each other because whatever you do, it's okay. You are just on the path. You know, whatever fault, whatever, it's okay. It's okay. They don't judge each other because there's no rule. They don't believe in any rules. They believe gradually you rise to the position of a pure soul. Now, I'm trying to see, is that the kind of society we have in Krishna consciousness? No. In Krishna consciousness, we have the qualities of devotees, 26 qualities of devotees, well defined. We have rules and regulations. And now, if we have to be our brother's keepers, we can't just say that everyone is right, because it will really hamper our consciousness when we live with people who seem to be knowingly going against the principle. It disturbs the environment, right? So that's what I'm trying to digest. Are we a society where we really believe everyone is right? Then why do we have the rules? And if we have to be lenient with everybody, because all devotees are right. So in a society where people are not conscious and not being made to be conscious by one another of rules, what do you think you're going to have? So anyway, this, like I said, they're beautiful lessons, but hard for me to digest some of this. Can you elaborate? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, sure, Dev, you are muted.
Forgot.
Okay, good.
I said thank you, Prabhu, for sharing and for giving me an opportunity to clarify, if I wasn't clear before, that all of the devotees are right if they want to please Krishna. That's the only right thing going on in this world. And certainly we have rules, and devotees are right to follow those rules. Sometimes it's right to break those rules, like Srila Prabhupada did. But that's a very special standard. We shouldn't imagine ourselves to be like Srila Prabhupada. So all the devotees are right so much as they want to please Krishna. And I think that we should see that. Now, it might be right that they should serve Krishna in their own way in some other community. Maybe they shouldn't be in ISKCON. I don't know. If they don't want to respect this certain way that Prabhupada set up things, they can be right serving Krishna and just do somewhere else. You know? So I agree with you that it's important for us to have boundaries personally and institutionally. And it is right to follow those boundaries, to follow those rules. But any person who wants to please Krishna is right in any situation. They might not be the right fit for our community, but we should respect them as being devoted to the Lord and still not be offensive. That's my very strong opinion, and I feel like that's Krishna's opinion too. Apichet sudurachara. Sudurachara means even if they do something very bad. That's what that means. Su, very bad. Still, sadur eva. That doesn't mean you have to invite them into your home and let them influence your children or something, but you still have to respect them as being sadhu. So I appreciate your feedback, Varahacharya Prabhu. I'm still convicted in my statement that any person who is devoted to Krishna is always right, and we should respect them.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Srimad Prabhu, you have something to say?
Yeah,
Okay.
I love that. I love the point that they are right, but maybe not just for each setting. Maybe they can do it in their own place, and that's what we've always been saying. Yeah, that I agree 100% with that. You may be right, your mood to serve Krishna, but the society that we're living in has its own rules. So maybe you can do it elsewhere. Yeah, that's fine. I like that. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Well, thank you so much for the question and the answers. I have a question to this, but Anadi Niranam Prabhu has a question in the chat room, and if you wouldn't mind, I'll read that. YASODEVA Prabhu, and then you take it. So, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandava Pranams. When devotees have a conflict, it is difficult to solve because everyone is right, trying to please the Lord. How can Krishna be pleased if other devotees are not pleased? Or can it be because of our conditioning? That is why even though a devotee may be trying his best, and yet still we may be wrong. So this is the dilemma Anadi Niranam Prabhu has. And if you may help, please.
Thank you for such a nice question, Anadi Nidanam Prabhu. But yes, I think that we should be pleased. If a devotee is trying to serve Krishna, we should be pleased, even if they do it differently from us. Even if it challenges the way we think Krishna should be served, we should still be pleased with everyone's devotional service. Even if someone is causing some challenge by which we have to surrender even more, we should be pleased. I think that you've understood exactly. It's our conditioning to think that, no, this devotee is not justified in what they're doing, or they're wrong, there's something just inherently wrong about them, and therefore they're bad, and I should tell other people that they're bad. I think that is our misunderstanding. Every devotee who does service for Krishna is glorious. We should be pleased by that. But we're not obligated to invite everybody into your home, to, share your bed with you or something. You can have your boundaries, you can have your personal space, you can have the sangha that you like to be with. It's one of the great assets of ISKCON, is there's so many varieties of sanghas, all under the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. But we should be pleased. Do you think Krishna, and I'm not talking about you specifically, Anadi Nidanam Prabhu, it could be anyone in this situation, but do you think Krishna is pleased with us if we're not pleased with another devotee's service? Do you think Krishna is impressed by that? Sure, this devotee has done so many amazing things for Srila Prabhupada, but, he didn't put his tilak on right. I just noticed I forgot tilak. I gave Bhagavatam class this morning, so I had tilak, and then it came off, and I thought, I got to remember to put it back on before the next class. Do you think Krishna is pleased if we make some excuse, some reason to not appreciate another devotee's service? So, let us be pleased with all devotional service. Let's respect all devotees who serve Krishna. They're all wonderful. They're all glorious, even if they do things differently from us. You don't have to marry them. You don't have to be with them all the time, but we should still appreciate them and never commit offenses.
Well, Hare Krishna.
Except in very extreme cases. I mean, of course, we've had, unfortunately, some cases where a person has really just gone off the deep end. And we should still respect what service they had performed in the past, but then just have nothing to do with them. But there's no need for us to commit offenses against anyone. There's no need to commit offense. What is the need? What is the need to say something critical about someone else? What does that accomplish? Nothing. Unless you're actually in a position where you have some responsibility. If you're just indulging in criticism, what does it even accomplish? It doesn't award anyone anything. So let's just not do it.
Well, Hare Krishna.
That's my philosophy. It's worked out so far, so yes. I recommend it.
Leela Devi, please give me on mute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. This is really good reminders, and I appreciate the discussion on conflict. And as you were saying, it's very easy to become defensive and criticize. And one of the most difficult things, you even touched upon it regarding like Grihastha ashram. One of the most difficult things, or any conflict, is really to see the perspective of the other side. Even though we don't have to agree with it or take it on as our perspective, but to really have the courage to see where people are coming from, and in the respect of what you were saying, that on some level everyone's always right, because at least the Leela that's being discussed now, and maybe the situation that was brought up, all parties are trying to protect. Someone's always trying to do something positive. It just may be that someone disagrees with it, doesn't like it, has a better idea. But ultimately, at its core, there's some positive intent there. And it's really hard to see that sometimes, especially when we feel strongly about, our perspective. And so one of the things that I was thinking as you were saying this is, and especially for me, because it's very easy to criticize and get upset and, emotional about a situation, but to put that aside and try to understand. And then what I was wondering if maybe what Krishna wants to see from us is how are you going to show up in this conflict? How are you going to behave? What are you going to say? And are you going to be able to think critically and perhaps do the difficult thing and try to see from the other side? And then from that place, try to come to a resolution. It might be different to come to a resolution from the place of understanding. It may not. Like you said, some conflicts just may not. They can only be solved in some way, like Arjuna having to fight. They tried to resolve that. I just wanted to mention that. Thank you very much for all the things that you spoke today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so
for
much.
Nice feedback and encouragement. Hare Krishna. I appreciate your realizations as well. We should think critically about another devotee's perspective, but not criticize. I think Prabhupada wanted us to use our intelligence, but that doesn't mean we have to criticize. Thank you for that insight, Leela Mata.
Hare Krishna. Thakur Prabhu, please you may unmute.
Is that Thakur Murari?
Yes.
Calling in from the island, man. Hey.
Yes.
Haribo Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances and goes to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
So thanks for the presentation as usual. I just there's a thing we said, the teeth and the tongue exist in the same place. But they meet occasionally. Yes. When they meet is not very nice, but they will meet. So, that's one. Number two, I just heard something recently where they said that when something happens, how you deal with it makes a lot of difference. It is also said that is out of the 100% action and reaction, 10% is action and 90% is the reaction. So how we deal with things make a whole lot of difference. Yeah, so we should meditate on that. And also, I like the idea that we respectfully behave toward devotees. We can remind ourselves that we don't know why a thing happened at a point in time. Yes, so use our intelligence. Yes, that's nice. So thanks again for the Sangha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Thank you, Thakur Murari, the teacher, always teaching me. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, that's a great example. It's 10% what happens and 90% how you react to it. So look at Jaya and Vijaya. Sure, what happened was unfortunate, but how they react to it creates glorious leelas, actually. So the reaction is far more important than the action itself. Thank you, Prabhu.
And Yashodeva, when was the last time you accidentally bit on your tongue? That is one comment or remark Thakur Murari made also, that the tongue and the teeth, they all live in the same house, and sometimes the teeth will step on the toes of the tongue, and the tongue may not be happy, but they still live there together.
Yes, that's a really good analogy.
Very good.
They're incompatible, teeth and tongue.
Yeah.
But we got to work together.
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you.
Arichakra Prabhu, please you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, yesterday, Go, Dandava Pranam, and all glories to the assembled devotees. And all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for the class. and especially the issue about seeing everybody as trying their best. And so you should respect if even it doesn't conform with the way you view things. That's a very powerful way of seeing things. But my question is, see, in my tribe, there is a saying in my tribe that if your child poop on your lap, you don't cut your leg off. You clean it, right? So my question is, if somebody really is very abusive, very, very abusive, and he's a devotee, so do we have to just close our eyes and consider that even though Krishna has said that if even you commit the most abominable act, you should still be considered a saint? So should we just close our eyes to it? I mean, the way we are talking now, I understand it from one angle, but let me give a specific example. Like if my child, I see a devotee abusing my child, how do I have to sit down and say and consider, oh, because he's a devotee and because Krishna has said that if even he commits the most abominable activity, I should still consider him a sin and just let it go?
No, Prabhu. If someone is abusing our children, we should call the police and put that person in jail.
Thank you.
And still respect them as a devotee.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think some people, even devotees, they need to experience secular law and punishment. If someone commits a crime, they should go to jail for it, or even worse. But we should still have respect that they've done devotional service, that they've done something that pleases Krishna, and pray that in the future they'll, as Krishna says in text 31 of chapter 9, Kshipram bhavati dharmatma, that they quickly become righteous and purified. So we've had instances where persons who have leadership and responsibility within our community have caused great harm. I think they should be put in jail. But I still respect that they've done a lot of devotional service. They can be a devotee in jail. There's plenty of devotees in jail, you know? I still appreciate them, but expect that someone should get exactly the punishment they deserve. So when Krishna says sador eva samantavya, I don't think that means that you just ignore any terrible thing that somebody does. I mean, Krishna's encouraging Arjuna to fight a war.
Yeah.
But they can be devotees in jail, and we can respect them as devotees in jail. That's my opinion. So vote for me for GBC, and I'll put some people in jail. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. What would you say? Of course, thank you so much. I appreciate all your responses, and it's beautiful, nice questions coming up. But oftentimes when we speak from a very good heart, with a very beautiful conscience, and assume that everybody else is also with the same good conscience. But unfortunately, that happens not to be the case. For example, we all know in this world there is one rule which has been deemed the golden rule. That is, do unto others as you would want them do unto you. No, everybody accepts that this is a golden rule, which is a very wonderful rule. But I beg to differ that it's a very stupid rule, in the sense that the reason why it is said that do unto others as you would want them do unto you is because the person speaking is assuming that he is coming from a position of goodness, a position of virtue. You know, we all know that doing hard drugs is not good. But if I engage in hard drugs and I do not have money to buy my hard drug, and you have the money and you buy me hard drug, I'm going to see you as a very nice person. But that's not, I don't think that makes you a nice person, simply because you bought me hard drug. So oftentimes we say that do not do this, do not do that with good intention. But what if the other person is also doing that with a negative intention? And I'm happy that you said, like, if somebody is abusing somebody, you should report him to the police. I feel that there is a difference between somebody having challenges, difficulties in his sadhana and falling short versus somebody abusing little children sexually, pedophilia. I do not think that is an offense. That is a crime. And if someone is committing a crime and this person is a devotee, and I know that this person is a devotee, he's doing so much. Not that he's done so much, he's doing so much, but he's also done this particular crime. And I say, no, he's a devotee. I have to be careful. Maybe it's a lila. This has been a problem. And I don't know if you want to say something in regards to what I'm saying, but I think you have already explained so beautifully that what you're saying does not mean that when there is crime, when there is abuse, we throw our face somewhere else. But unfortunately, some devotees do that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for expressing your concern. It's heartfelt. We all feel it. We all hate that our beautiful international community is scarred by a few instances of terrible abuse.
Oh, but Prabhuji, this is the moon. You know, the moon has some black spot, but it never diminishes its effulgence. So there are some problems here and there, but for the majority part, we're very fortunate. There is no better organization in this world than what we have.
Amen.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%, even if there are some problems sometimes. Yeah. So in regards to the example that you gave, I have strong conviction that if someone is sadhu eva, as Krishna says, they can be a sadhu in jail. Treating everyone as a sadhu doesn't mean you ignore crimes or offenses. And if even if there's minor offenses, of course, the ones that you're talking about are rare and horrible, but even just minor conflicts, we should still respect someone as a sadhu. That doesn't mean we have to associate with them. Maybe that's the golden rule.
Yeah.
You want others to treat you in a certain way, maybe the best thing is you treat them by avoiding them, because you probably like them to avoid you too. There's the golden rule. Just stay away from each other.
Yeah.
But still, within the mind, within the heart, we should not cultivate offensiveness. We should not diminish the service that someone's done for Krishna that's pleased them. I think this will help us to not follow in those same footsteps. Because usually someone who's an abuser, all the statistical studies show, sociological studies show, someone who's an abuser, they were probably the recipient of some abuse. Mm. They cultivated that. We don't want to follow that same route. Yeah. So that's why Krishna is saying so emphatically, sadhu eva. You don't have to associate with them, but you should still respect what service they've done while they're in jail.
I think that is the key. That if we are truly trying to become devotees, even when we chastise, we still will have. That is why I was saying that this is a very exemplary. Jai Vijay and then the Kumaras. The Kumaras are crescent, but they still have a softer part. How to help these people in their devotional service, in their spiritual life. And those who are affected, they also repented and were accepting the curse, the punishment, but also seeking some leniency. But I've seen once in a while, actually, there was one devotee, was a very wonderful devotee, Paka Pujari. But he used to smoke weed. And when the authorities got to know that this guy is doing wonderful service, that he's smoking weed, as soon as the authorities got to know about it, they said, no, you cannot do this service again. And the devotee didn't take it lightly. He was trying to make trouble with the authorities. The authorities drove him out of the temple. But as young as I was then, I could build. I don't know, this is just my speculation. But what I'm trying to say is that even though in that situation, the administration was right to ask the devotee to stop working on the altar, and the devotee didn't give that respect, so they drove him out. But I think the authorities should also have that softer part, that this person has done so much, let's pray for his recovery. I don't know if the authorities did that or felt that way, but I'm just saying this just to buttress what you're saying, that no matter what the situation might be, we should not lose sight of the sacrifices the devotee has performed, and also pray for his recovery. Yeah, so thank you so much. It's very beautiful. Yeah.
If I'll just add one more thing. I know we should wrap up, but you know, we all have an ideal, you know, like conception in our mind that when there's a problem like that, everyone will come together and just like love this person and help them to get over whatever issues that they had, and so that they're not struggling anymore. But it just rarely works out like that. Someone who's struggling with a problem, they have to want to help themselves. And you know, we don't want to become offensive towards the management of a community that has to ask someone to leave. You know, maybe they wanted to try to help this person, but if the person doesn't want to be helped, then it's impossible. So there's always more to the story. My spiritual master, His Holiness Devamrita Swami, would always say, there's 5 sides to every story in ISKCON. There's a saying in English, there's 2 sides to every story, but he says in ISKCON there's 5 sides to every story. And so we should remember that even when a person shows some signs of misdemeanor or offense and we try to help them, it's very rare that someone wants to be helped and be rectified.
Unfortunately.
That's just the situation in Kali Yuga. So we should try to be compassionate, patient towards everyone involved, both the person who has committed the offenses, the person who was offended, and the persons who have to deal with it. I mean, I thank Krishna that I don't have to deal with that sort of stuff. I wouldn't want to be in some position of authority and having to be judge, jury, and executioner of all these sort of conflicts.
Yeah.
So the general attitude, and this is my last statement, general attitude that we're learning from the Kumaras, from Jai and Vijay, is to be tolerant, to be repentant, compassionate, to respect everyone, even if there are offenses committed. Try our best.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. I'm done.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dear devotees, we've come to the end of our Krishna Katha for today, led by His Grace YASODEVA. Prabhuji, like I said, we can't thank you enough. It's always wonderful to have your association. And those who do not know you in person, who have not related with you in person, I would like to say this. This devotee here is much sweeter when you happen to relate with him in person. If you think it's sweet here, it's much sweeter when you relate with him in person. So we thank you all, dear devotees. We're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all with one heart, one love, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation and gratitude to our beloved speaker for today, His Grace Yashodeva, for sharing his love and wisdom with us all. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama, Hare Hare.
Om Namo Namaha. Sahade Prabhu Namo Namaha.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Glories to His Grace Yashodeva Prabhu Ki Jai. All glories to Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samud Vaishnava Devotees Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.